Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Clinically Validated Postbiotics, Transforming the Standard of Pet Wellness. Today's webinar will be presented by NASC preferred supplier, Kingdom Supercultures. I'm Jenny Parker with NASC. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Ravi Sheth, PhD, is co-founder and Chief Science Officer for Kingdom Supercultures. He earned his PhD as an NSF and Hertz Fellow at Columbia University. Ravi's work on genomics tools to understand the ecology of microbiomes has been published in top scientific journals, including Science and Nature Biotechnology. Ravi has also spent time at the Gates Foundation, advancing new microbiome-directed interventions to combat malnutrition. And Adrienne Carrister is Senior Director of Growth for Kingdom Supercultures. She leads the company's go-to-market team, working with pet brands and pet parents to identify the unmet needs that superculture ingredients can uniquely address, and helping brands to incorporate these ingredients into their end products. Prior to this role, Adrienne led organic growth initiatives for Fortune 500 companies across the food value chain. She holds an MBA from Stanford University. And without further ado, I will turn the webinar over to today's speakers.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, Jenny. And thank you to NASC for hosting these webinars. I've attended a number of them myself in the past, and it's a great opportunity to be able to present relevant information in some of our work with NASC members and the broader industry. Before we get started, wanted to share a couple of important disclaimers. Because these are important, I'm going to read them word for word. This presentation is intended for professional audiences and not consumers. You are responsible for claims on your end product, and you should consult with regulatory and legal professionals. You should consult all relevant resources, including but not limited to NASC guidance provided to members and FDA's small entity compliance guide on structure function claims. And then finally, on the very first page or the cover page of this presentation, we have a full disclaimer. And with that behind us, we can get started. So what I'm excited to share with you all today, just kind of kicking off our session, are a couple of key topics that we will be covering throughout the presentation. So first, we'll talk about the case for clinically validated postbiotics. We'll look at unmet pet health needs that pet parents are concerned about most, and discuss how clinically validated postbiotics can really help these brands or help brands meet and exceed evolving pet parent needs. We'll then spend some time diving a little bit more deeply into the science behind our superculture ingredients, and we'll hand things over to Ravi to walk through the clinical results of our superculture pet oral and pet immune ingredients. And ultimately, throughout the presentation, we'll be highlighting how brands are using our superculture ingredients today already to stand out on shelf and exceed pet parent expectations. And so ultimately, there are four things, as we thought about putting this presentation together, there were four things that came to mind that we really wanted you to walk away with after today's session. First is that pet parents want benefits that they can see, backed by science that they can trust. And superculture ingredients enable brands to deliver these real clinically validated outcomes. Oral health and immune health are both high impact, high growth opportunity areas for pet brands today. And superculture ingredients are currently commercially ready and proven in market. So before we dive in completely, wanted to spend a little time just sharing a brief overview of Kingdom, what we do, who we are, and really what sets our superculture ingredients apart from others on the market. And so what do? We create and sell natural functional ingredients that actually work. We call them superculture ingredients, and they are an entirely new class of clinically validated postbiotics that we've designed to target the root cause of unmet pet health needs. And we do this by identifying combinations of microbes with exceptional functionalities and then demonstrating their impact on unmet consumer health needs. And so today we're manufacturing multiple ingredients at large commercial scales and supplying them to a number of leading pet brands across the industry. So who are we? We are a small but mighty team. We're a team of 18 based in Brooklyn, New York. The majority of our team are scientists. We are a very technical focused organization. And so we have 6 PhDs across microbiology, computational biology, and other relevant fields. And we do our work in a 9,000 square foot state-of-the-art R&D facility here in Brooklyn in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. This is where we do all of our discovery, R&D design, bioprocess development, and the only things that happen outside of our facility here are we outsource and work with a network of co-manufacturers across the US to design or to produce our superculture ingredients at large commercial scales. We're a well-funded company. We've received over 30 million in venture funding and about 3 million in competitive R&D funding. And so what really sets our superculture ingredients apart, and you'll hear a little bit more about this throughout the presentation, but by the end of 2026, we will have either completed or in progress 10 clinical studies across our 2 breakthrough superculture ingredients. I mentioned we are a very technically focused, rigorous organization. We bring that through to the way in which we design and validate our ingredients. We've published peer-reviewed research from 2 of our 5 completed clinical studies in leading industry journals, and we have some more publications in progress and on the way. And finally, our superculture ingredients are not only patent pending, but we've specifically designed them for pets, not humans or production animals. And so what this means for pet brands is that our superculture ingredients can enable them to launch next generation products that really deliver real health benefits that are not only validated by science, but are actually noticed by pet parents. And we think that that's really important. And is ultimately what a lot of today's presentation is about. Finally, I will very quickly take a high-level overview of our scientific process. So mentioned that we take a very rigorous and first principles approach to our ingredient design. We anchor our scientific process really around first identifying the urgent unmet pet health needs. That's a lot of what my role is here at Kingdom. And thinking about which of those needs we can uniquely impact with natural microbes, and then working to deliver very specific and noticeable benefits. So once we've identified the urgent unmet pet health need, we work to deeply understand the biology of that unmet need that we're targeting. We map how natural microbes can uniquely address the problem, and we spend time identifying key biomarkers that can drive a very perceptible health benefit. Second, we then spend time developing high throughput assays to accurately measure these biomarkers in realistic conditions and then screen from our biobank of tens of thousands of natural microbes to identify combinations with exceptional functionalities for the job at hand and with verified safety. And then third, we select optimal combination of those microbes and optimize the fermentation process to reliably deliver superculture ingredients with both proven efficacy as well as safety. And I think it's worth calling out here that we're not just delivering heat-killed probiotics, but very specifically optimizing the fermentation of microbial strains to deliver high enough titers of very specific beneficial compounds that will make the noticeable and meaningful impact on the target unmet health need that we're working on. And then finally, we spend a lot of time conducting extensive in vitro studies to confirm and validate that the ingredient can be easily formulated with and in a wide range of end products. And then also investing pretty significantly in vivo clinical trials in dogs and soon to be cats as well to rigorously validate the efficacy of these ingredients. And so now kind of getting into this first big section, the case for clinically validated postbiotics. I think I started to mention as part of our scientific process that we always start with identifying the urgent unmet pet health need. And we do this through a number of ways, but through hundreds of conversations with pet parents, with vets, with pet brands, with kind of analyzing product reviews, looking at key search terms online, really trying to identify and understand what are those critical top of mind pet health concerns for pet parents. And when we got started in the pet space, oral care was really one that was stood out to us. And in the past few years, there's been a really large shift in pet parent demand for better, more effective oral care solutions. This is driven by a few key trends, primarily growing awareness of the important role that oral health plays in overall health for humans and also for pets, the continued humanization of pets, and of course, growing vet bills. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with the stat that 90% of dogs over 2 have some form of periodontal disease. That's an alarming statistic. And your vet will give you the same advice that you get from the dentist, which is to brush daily. But most pet parents can attest that brushing your dog or your cat's teeth is not enjoyable at best and nearly impossible at its worst. And this shows up in the market data. I mean, we see research showing that fewer than 10% of pet parents are brushing their dog or cat's teeth on a daily basis. Instead, they're turning to a variety of different oral care products, dental chews, powders, water additives to deliver this daily oral care in a more convenient format. But it doesn't take much more than a quick scan of product reviews online to reveal what most of us already know, which is that the majority of these solutions and products are ineffective. They're either temporarily masking the issue, they're working only superficially at the surface level, or they're disrupting the oral microbiome and coming along with a number of other harmful side effects. And so, with 1 in 3 pet parents today seeking clinically proven solutions for their pets, it's clear that expectations are starting to change, and pet brands are in a really unique position to meet the evolving needs of pet parents and formulate more efficacious products with clinically proven ingredients, or risk getting left behind. We saw the same thing as we started to explore the world of immune health in pets. And through a number of our conversations with pet parents and with pet brands, we heard the need for better immune health solutions. But immune health is really quite broad. And so we turned to kind of the internet and used the help of AI to conduct a pretty in-depth analysis of key search terms and over 6,000 product reviews to hone in on what exactly that noticeable health concern pet parents care most about within the realm of immune health. And our analysis revealed that pet parents were turning to the internet to seek out solutions for itching. And itching as an urgent unmet need was further revealed in an analysis of these product reviews in which itching was mentioned 1.5x more frequently across reviews, especially cited in negative reviews when pet parents are explaining why the product wasn't working for them. And it's really no surprise, given that itching is the #1 driver of vet visits for dogs. And so these are kind of some of the upfront ways in which we work to identify not only the urgent unmet pet health need, but hone in on what aspect of that is going to be noticeable and measurable for us to help design our ingredients. And so wanted to take a pause. We really want to hear from you and understand what are the pet health concerns that you are currently most intent on addressing. So Laura Sophia will drop the survey link in the chat. You can also scan the QR code on the screen. In the interest of time, we'll spend just a minute here, but we'll keep the survey link open throughout the end of the presentation and can share some additional updates on what matters most to you all at the end. So let's see what's coming through. Alrighty. I think everyone is, we're seeing dental, starting to see an immune health, well-being broadly. obesity, healthy microbiome. We're seeing some skin health and itching. This is great. Please keep sharing with us the pet parent concerns that are most important to you all. And we will provide a summary of everyone's input at the end. So that really brings us to this piece. I think, as the title and the abstract of this presentation shared, as pet parents are expecting more of the products that they buy for their pets, it's important that pet brands are equipped with the tools to deliver on those expectations. And we're excited that we see Postbiotics as offering a very unique opportunity to unlock new levels of efficacy and marketing claims across a wide range of companion animal products. And so let's dive in to a little bit about the landscape of biotics. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with the realm of biotics. We did not come up with this fuel factory goods analogy, but we think it's an appropriate and really helpful way to think about the key differences between prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. And up until just a couple of years ago, the market has largely been dominated by formulations that include and tout prebiotics and probiotics, but postbiotics are a little bit newer to the industry and to consumer awareness as well. But why we're so excited about postbiotics as this ingredient class or as their own ingredient class, and why we think they offer pet brands a really unique opportunity to unlock new levels of efficacy and marketing claims, is that because compared to prebiotics and probiotics, postbiotics offer enhanced shelf stability. They offer greater formulation and flexibility and wider formulation options, given that there are no live cultures and that they have the ability to withstand high heat and high pressure, making them, a great choice for an extruded product, retort manufacturing, additions to, pretty much effectively any common pet format out there. They offer the ability to directly deliver a health benefit to the animal versus relying on engraftment and hoping that the probiotic produces high enough titers of the beneficial compounds to actually deliver that impact. They enable consistent performance, so they're not dependent on pet-specific factors like microbiome or diet to work. And then, of course, they also don't offer CFU counting. There are no CFU counting challenges with postbiotics, which is really important for ensuring QC consistency and lot-to-lot consistency as well. And so bottom line is that postbiotics, and specifically clinically validated postbiotics, deliver consumer-relevant benefits and superior stability profiles, enabling formulation flexibility, consistent efficacy, and claim integrity. So a couple other quick slides before I hand things over to Ravi to dive into the data, but wanted to provide a high-level overview of the two breakthrough postbiotics that we've developed here at Kingdom. We've developed and clinically validated these two postbiotics for oral and immune health in pets. And today they're driving industry-leading efficacy and unlocking fresh new marketing claims for brands. And so specifically our oral health ingredient is commercially available as of March this year, and there are already 7 brands with end products already in the market today, with many more on the way. This ingredient has been clinically validated in 3 separate clinical trials, making it the most clinically validated oral health postbiotic on the market today, with data supporting unparalleled efficacy across bad breath, biofilms, and oral microbiome categories. And the way it works is that it delivers metabolites directly to the mouth. So it works through the oral microbiome and is designed to work under even really short contact times, which is important because you can't ask a dog to keep something in its mouth for more than just a couple of seconds. On the immune health front, this ingredient is commercially available as of June of this year, and we have the first brands launching products this fall, so it's a bit newer to market. It has been clinically validated in now 2 completed clinical trials, and we have 3 more that are currently in progress. Of the 2 trials that have been completed, they have data demonstrating unparalleled efficacy across itching, skin health, and gut microbiome categories. And the way this ingredient works, and Ravi will talk about this in a little bit more detail, getting into the ingredient, but it works through delivering beneficial compounds directly through the gut, and then those compounds move throughout the body and throughout the immune system. As I mentioned, there are already a couple of brands that have launched and are selling products powered by our Superculture oral ingredient. I think it's one thing to have clinical proof in a well-designed, double-blinded, placebo-controlled clinical study, but it's another when pet parents are buying end products powered by these postbiotics or these ingredients and are actually noticing and experiencing the difference. And so not only are the products that are already in market doing exceptionally well, the specific feedback that they're getting from pet parents is overwhelmingly positive, with many citing notable benefits and improvements in dog breath in just a week or 2, improvements in gum and tooth appearance, and more. And so something that we're really excited about, and is why we're in this business of doing this work, is actually making a real noticeable difference. And so finally, I will leave you with this. I think for those of you in the audience that may be thinking, efficacy is of critical importance, but there are also a number of other important expectations that consumers have that we need to address with the end products that we formulate. We hear you. And that is why we designed Superculture ingredients to come with a number of these key certifications that meet the highest bars of safety and consumer expectations. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read through all of them, but just noting that, these are made from microbial strains that are AAFCO listed, natural and non-GMO. So they can be used in both supplement products as well as food products. There's no corn, no soy, no wheat. We don't use artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives, and the ingredients are made here in the USA. So with that, I know we had a slide here for questions, and I think some of you are starting to put questions in the chat. In the interest of time, I'm going to pass things over to Ravi, but we are seeing and collecting all of your questions, and we will get through as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adrian. So I'm Ravi, as mentioned at the beginning, one of the co-founders and lead our R&D and clinical work here at Kingdom. And in the next few slides, we're going to run through some of the clinical data for both our oral health and immune health ingredients. And so we're really excited to dive into some of that clinical data with you all. So the first ingredient we'd love to highlight is the Superculture Pet Oral ingredient. And just to refresh, the way we were thinking about this ingredient was really to address oral health in canines and pets at its root. And as we all know, the oral microbiome is really the key actor within the oral cavity that plays a really important role in many outcomes of oral health, including the production of compounds that result in perceiving bad breath, formation of biofilms that actually then form into plaque and tartar that really then contribute to the cycle of poor oral health. And so we designed this ingredient really understanding that basic biology of the system to do really 2 primary things. First, we wanted it to disrupt those biofilms and those particular microorganisms and really kind of remove the accumulation of those microorganisms within the oral cavity. And second, we wanted this ingredient to really suppress the production of some of these undesirable compounds associated with bad breath. And within the oral cavity, the specific unwanted microorganisms are able to take dietary proteins, break those down into amino acids, and then further convert those into these volatile sulfur compounds, which are sulfur-containing volatile compounds that are really then perceived as bad breath by humans. Beyond just the perception of bad breath, those compounds themselves can contribute to the cycle of poor oral health. where they are pro-inflammatory and they can create kind of this negative feedback loop within the oral cavity. And so we wanted to really design this ingredient to address those two key primary mechanisms of action, and that's really what the R&D behind this ingredient was focused on. And so, as Adrian mentioned, this ingredient now has really strong clinical data and clinical validation behind it. And we focused really on three main areas in our initial clinical studies to validate and demonstrate the efficacy of this ingredient in companion animals. And so, the primary area we've spent a lot of time really trying to validate is in bad breath and the perception of bad breath. And to do this, we've used a number of well-designed clinical studies where we've essentially taken cohorts of dogs and then actually enrolled them in a two-arm study where the two groups of dogs are actually balanced for their starting levels of bad breath or halitosis based on measurements of the volatile sulfur compounds within their oral cavity. And then we actually track those bad breath compounds over time within those cohorts with both a placebo group as well as an intervention group to understand the impact of this ingredient on bad breath. And you can see one example graph of this here on the right, where basically you see in orange the superculture ingredient compared to a placebo, which is maltodextrin, which is the inactive excipient used within the ingredient. And we see consistently over time that compared to the placebo, there's substantially lower volatile sulfur compound levels within these cohorts of animals, demonstrating that this ingredient can lower these bad breath compounds over time. And so we've now repeated this across multiple clinical studies and seen a reproducible, very strong effect. And this effect happens in a very quick period of time. We're able to see benefits after just 7 days of the ingredient being consumed by these dogs. And so we think that this is really exciting efficacy for the ingredient in terms of impacting bad breath and bad breath compounds. In addition to the data on these volatile sulfur compounds and like halitosis measurements, we've been able to look at other biomarkers that are really supportive of these findings within the halitosis data. And so beyond just those volatile sulfur compounds, we've also been able to see some differences in human perception of malodor. In some of these studies, we actually have panels of humans that actually smell the dog's breath, which I guess depending on how you think about it is either an awesome job or maybe not the best job in the world. But we've been able to see some kind of trends and consistent data with the halitosis measurements in that perception, which is really, really important because at the end of the day, that's what really is going to matter to a pet parent. And in the microbiome data, we've seen very consistent shifts within the microbiome with reduction of microorganisms that are able to produce these volatile sulfur compounds themselves. Within that microbiome data, we also have been able to see a reduction of specific unwanted microorganisms that are known to generate biofilms and plaque in a very short time period. And overall, we see overall improvement in and promotion of a healthy oral microbiome with an increase in different aspects of the oral microbiome diversity after the ingredient is delivered. One thing that we think is quite interesting about this ingredient and what we a key part of the clinical studies that we executed on is that in these clinical studies, we delivered this ingredient as a powder topper on top of daily kibble or daily chow. And this ingredient was able to deliver these benefits through contact as a powder topper on top of this daily dry kibble. And so importantly, this was not associated with specific mechanical action, for example, with a dental chew. And we think that this is really important because the ingredient was designed to have an effect within the oral cavity of the animal without any sort of mechanical action. And so one thing we were kind of interested in doing is comparing the activity and efficacy of the ingredient to other studies that have been designed in a very similar manner to understand the kind of general benefit of this ingredient as compared to something like a dental chew, which is obviously a very popular pet health dental product. And what we were able to see by comparing our study results to that of published literature of very similar design is actually the effect size we see on bad breath reduction and reduction of these volatile sulfur compounds actually exceeds that of what is observed in the same time frame and same study design with dental chews, very popular dental chews. And so we think that this is quite exciting because it means that this ingredient has the potential to deliver efficacy levels without the use of mechanical action, really opening up formulation opportunities to a wide range of pet health products beyond just mechanical action in dental chews themselves. And one kind of final point here is that we really feel like this ingredient has very strong best-in-class data across multiple categories of oral health benefits within companion animals. There's a number of other fermented products and postbiotics out there, but we believe across the three clinical studies we've done, we really have market-leading efficacy and market-leading performance in terms of some of these oral health outcomes associated with the ingredient itself. And so we'll jump to the second case study on our immune health ingredient, and we'll hold questions for the end. But just jumping through some of the clinical data on our second ingredient. So as we know, that really the scientific motivation for our immune superculture immune ingredient was this idea that the microbiome immune axis lays at the root of immune health and all these immune benefits within dogs. And in particular, what we think is quite interesting is all this research over the last few decades has demonstrated that the immune system and the microbiome have this really complex crosstalk and interplay where the microbiome can produce particular metabolites, the immune system senses those, the host then can facilitate and produce compounds and maintain a microbiome in response in a very different state. All of this evidence and all of this information about the microbiome has really demonstrated that this is a very complex interplay between not just like a single system, but both the microbiome as well as the host immune system itself. And so thinking about postbiotics, we really felt that as we thought about the mechanism here, it was really important to think about not just impacting the microbiome and the composition of the microbiome, but also making sure we're able to facilitate an impact directly to the host or directly to the immune system to try to restore this broken balance. And within this ingredient, what we really wanted to focus on this class of compounds known as indole compounds that are this emerging, very beneficial class of metabolites that are supported by a really wide breadth of clinical and scientific evidence as we've learned more about the microbiome. And what's very interesting about these indole compounds is that they're a core part of a healthy microbiome and the metabolites that are produced by a healthy microbiome. And they have a really strong potential to impact the host immune system and the microbiome in a very impactful way. And so these indole compounds themselves are basically tryptophan derivatives. They're processed by microorganisms. Tryptophan is processed by these microorganisms into a plethora of these indole derivative compound or tryptophan derivative compounds known as indoles. And these have subsequently been characterized to have a really positive benefit across like mechanistic impact on the immune system, activation of the aryl hydrocarbon receptor, which is a master regulator of different immune and inflammatory responses. So we were very interested in this class of metabolites that's been demonstrated to have this very beneficial output within the microbiome. And as we thought about a next generation postbiotic, there were really three things that we felt like were important. The first was that, as I mentioned, having impact on the host is very important. And we felt that being able to deliver specific compounds that have the potential to systemically impact the immune system was very important, given many of these benefits are occurring, many of these desirable benefits are something that are occurring throughout the body. And then secondly, within postbiotics, we felt that having a really clear mechanism of action was really important. This is something that's really a challenge in the biotics space, understanding how does a particular ingredient work, what is the specific mechanism of action for the beneficial output of that ingredient. And what's really interesting to us about indole compounds themselves is that they're a core part of a healthy functioning microbiome, and they have really clear scientific characterization of how they're able to impact specific host receptors and impact specific biological pathways. And as Adrian highlighted earlier in the presentation, being able to deliver these postbiotic compounds directly into a pet's gut is very desirable, because then it can work in a way that's independent of the underlying microbiome or the underlying complexity of the diet and microbiome interactions. And so with this ingredient, as Adrian mentioned, we've now completed 2 clinical studies, kind of characterizing and validating its efficacy in dogs specifically. And so we've done a number of in vitro studies where we've confirmed that the ingredient is able to activate the aryl hydrocarbon receptor, or AHR, and then in ex vivo studies, attenuate the release of specific pro-inflammatory cytokines. But then in clinical studies, we've been able to demonstrate that this ingredient can reduce occasional itching within animals and within dogs. And so in our first clinical study, we basically took a cohort of dogs that had occasional itching, but importantly, these are healthy animals that are not diagnosed with a specific disease state or disease condition, but they had kind of elevated levels of occasional itching. And in this study, we were able to demonstrate that the ingredient, compared to a placebo, was able to reduce occasional itching by about 20%, as measured by a wearable activity monitor on their dogs themselves that's been demonstrated to accurately measure actual seconds of itching behavior day to day. As well as perception of itching as measured by the PVAS score, which is this visual analog score that's really a very common measurement of itching in a veterinary setting. And this demonstrated actually about a 27% reduction in itching compared to placebo after 28 days. And so in this study, which was subsequently published in a peer-reviewed journal, we're able to see very strong reduction of occasional itching, which we think is really quite powerful evidence behind the efficacy of the ingredient. In that same study, we were also able to observe improvement in skin and coat quality. And so this was done by a questionnaire where basically individual at this facility basically answered a categorical questionnaire of the overall perception of coat quality. And after just 28 days, we were able to see a significant difference in that overall coat quality score. And secondly, we subsequently have focused a next clinical study on stool quality and the gut microbiome. And we've been able to demonstrate that the ingredient in a cohort of dogs with kind of a slightly looser stool than normal demonstrated a significant improvement in stool quality, basically firming up stool quality with an effect size of about like a quarter to a third of a Waltham fecal score. And in addition, we've been able to demonstrate in these studies that the ingredient can impact the microbiome and impact some metrics of overall microbiome diversity, which are things that are really associated with positive aspects of a microbiome state. And so similarly to this overview table with the oral health ingredient, we've been able to compare the clinical data of this ingredient compared to that that's available with other available postbiotic ingredients in the marketplace. And we really feel like this ingredient has very strong clinical evidence across a number of categories that are really top of mind for pet brands and pet parents. And importantly, we really feel like some of these clinical measurements, looking at the specific benefits, including things like the activity monitor, looking at itching, fecal score as we're thinking about gut health. This ingredient really demonstrates best-in-class efficacy on these dimensions that really are top of mind to pet parents, and something that other postbiotic ingredients have not been able to achieve in well-designed clinical studies. And so I see we have a ton of questions that are rolling in, so we're really excited to open up the discussion and address some of those. But Adrian, I really appreciated the opportunity to speak to you all today about postbiotics, the opportunity with postbiotics, and some of the clinical data and differentiation of our offerings. And we hope that folks attending the webinar today really walk away with an understanding of what postbiotics are and how they're able to basically specifically effectuate some of these desirable benefits, and how some of the unique formulation and production opportunities that these are able to offer, in that they are inherently stable and can inherently drive consistent efficacy across different form factors that may not be possible with ingredients like probiotics. And really hope that some of this clinical data around some of these ingredients is really clear, especially as it relates to measuring some of these markers and metrics that are really important to pet parents and pets themselves. And so I think with that, we would love to jump into some questions. And I think Bill from NASC will be helping to moderate.
I'm going to jump in very quickly. Thank you all again. Kind of reporting back out on the top pet parent concerns that you shared with us earlier. Kind of right at the top was gut health and gut microbiome health specifically. Then we had dental kind of coming in as number 2. Number 3, we had immune broadly, but also skin health and itching. And then the rest had only one kind of vote or input, but we had broad well-being, obesity, urinary health, stress, focus, and then mobility, joint discomfort. So thank you all for sharing that with us. As we move into Q&A, I do also want to take the opportunity to share that we are really excited to speak with all of you. If there is something that we shared today or talked about, or if you're thinking about either upgrading your existing products, launching a new products, and you want to learn more about clinically validated postbiotics, we'd love to talk to you. So please fill out this form. Laura Sophia can drop the link again in the chat, or you can scan the QR code, and we will be in touch. And with that, we'll hand it over to you, Bill, to moderate Q&A.
Thank you very much. Starting with first question, when do you expect to expand into the cat category? And also, question follow up, my cat needs this, the questioner says. So
yeah, I can take that one. So soon, we are launching our very first clinical study in cats starting this fall. We have validated palatability of both ingredients with felines in the palatability, with a formal palatability assessment that was completed with our clinical research organization. And we will be starting with a clinical study on the superculture immune ingredient in cats, looking at digestive health, some other immune biomarkers, and anything else I missed on that front, Ravi?
No, that's it. Yeah, we've definitely heard that there's a lot of unmet need for cat parents, and so something we're very interested in understanding and clinically validating.
thank you. Next question. How many participants were enrolled in these studies?
Yeah, so we for each study that it might be slightly different, but each of the studies is like powered through a formal power analysis. For example, in some of the oral health studies, those were about 24 dogs in total with 12 dogs per arm. In the immune study, it was a very similar number. So it depends on the particular clinical study, but in on average, we're typically looking at a few dozen subjects per study.
Thank you very much. And then what age variables with your studies in was it puppies or older dogs?
Yeah, I think it also does depend on the particular study in terms of like the inclusion criteria. In general, we're typically looking at in these clinical studies adult dogs, so something on the order of between 1 to 10 years. But it does depend on the particular clinical study. We do have two of these clinical studies are now published in peer-reviewed studies, peer-reviewed journals, and so a lot of those particular details can definitely be answered in the methods of those studies, and we're working very hard to get the rest of our studies published in peer-reviewed journals as well, so that kind of transparency and obviously the peer review process is very important just to the quality of scientific work that we're doing.
Thank you very much. And then will links to the clinical trial details be provided? If not, can you direct to where we can easily locate the trial reports and results?
Yeah, I can share that. So we have two peer-reviewed publications that are available online. They're in the journal Animals. We are happy to find a way to share them with you all following this. We can send a follow-up email to all participants and share those links. For the studies that are currently unpublished, we do share those under NDA. So please reach out to us, fill out those forms, send us an email. And we can provide some more details high level and then get an NDA in place and share the white papers that we have written on each report with you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Are you aware of the survivability of the postbiotics if heat were to be applied during processing? Would it be considered synergetic to incorporate the postbiotics into a dental chew?
That's a great question. So on the survivability and stability question, that's something the short answer is yes. That's something that was very important to us to understand as we design these ingredients up front. I think one of the challenges in a variety of pet products and form factors is that there are really challenging processing criteria and processing conditions that are required to manufacture some of these products. And so to address that, for both of the ingredients, we've done a series of stability studies where we look at how different manufacturing parameters, things like heat or moisture, may affect the activity of the ingredient itself. And so with both of them, we've been able to demonstrate very strong overall stability to processing conditions that are typical or characteristic of pet products: pressure, moisture, temperature, freeze thaw, etc. There is some level of degradation, especially at the most challenging temperatures and conditions. But we feel that the ingredient has very strong overall stability. So I think that's something that's very important for any pet product, is really understanding, how does the actual formulation and manufacturing affect the product itself, because it's one thing to have a great formula on paper, but it's more important to understand, does that actually translate into the real world. In terms of like incorporation into dental chew, so I think that's, as we did our clinical studies, we really focused on demonstrating efficacy in this powder topper form factor, and we could certainly imagine that incorporating that into a variety of formulations may potentially increase the overall efficacy. Obviously, if one were expecting higher levels of contact time or longer residence of the product within the oral cavity, that would, we would certainly expect that to kind of improve or increase the activity of the ingredient.
Thank you. Is it necessary to still include pre and probiotics with your postbiotics in a supplement for dogs?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think ultimately a lot of that I think is up to formulators and products. We really focus on demonstrating the efficacy and establishing the efficacy of our ingredients alone. And so all of our studies are done just on the ingredient versus appropriate placebo to compare it to. But certainly, there's a lot of formulation opportunities to incorporate these into other formulations, add other ingredients and actives into a product. So we think that the ingredients are able to drive efficacy alone, but other formulation approaches can certainly kind of serve to improve that.
Very good. Are there other health areas that you're looking at for future research and product development?
Adrian, do you want to answer that one, maybe on some of the future areas we're looking at for the immune ingredient?
Yeah, sure. I might actually take the opportunity to go back to one of these early slides here. So right now we're primarily focused on investing pretty significantly in clinical validation of these two ingredients. We are running, I mentioned there are 5 studies that we've completed so far, 3 on the oral health, mostly focused on bad breath, biofilms, oral microbiome categories. We'll be looking at plaque and tartar as well in that. And then on the immune health front, we've completed skin health and itching and a gut microbiome study, as well as a stool quality consistency study. We have a metabolic health and weight study, and we're also looking at a behavioral health study to expand the claims space of these ingredients based on our reason to believe that they will be efficacious in those areas. And then, of course, expanding into the cat space. So running additional clinical validation to prove out efficacy in cats for both ingredients, starting with immune health.
Thank you. And then to follow up with that, is there any possibility of equine application down the line?
There's always a possibility. We don't have that on our current product roadmap, but we always look at where there's, great opportunity in the market and how our ingredients, whether there's an opportunity that we see our ingredients can uniquely serve an unmet need. So yeah, so certainly something that we'll consider in the future.
Excellent. And then do you think it would be best to only have your postbiotic as a single supplement, or would it be okay to mix it with a multivitamin, for example?
Do you want to answer that, Ravi?
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think a lot of formulation opportunities, like I mentioned, we really focus on, as an ingredient and raw material supplier, characterizing the ingredient itself, but certainly could be incorporated with other ingredients and formulations depending on what a brand is looking for.
Thank you very much. And then let me look over. Do these postbiotics meet the AFCO definition for natural?
The short answer is yes.
And then if the organism is AFCO listed as a probiotic, is the postbiotic from it necessarily also considered AFCO listed?
So these ingredients do meet a AFCO definition for dried fermentation product. Um, and so it's a little bit complicated as you go into how some of these AFCO definitions work, but they do meet a specific kind of definition for dried strain fermentation product. And so that's kind of the definition that these ingredients fall under, and the regulatory status of these ingredients in the US at least.
Thank you. Do these products have a smell that needs to be masked?
It's a great question. So these are fermentation products, so they have kind of like a faint like kind of bready, yeasty aroma to them. But it is not all that it's not very strong. And especially given the expected incorporation rates of these ingredients into various products, wouldn't expect to be like a substantial issue. Um, we've actually done, our team is very scientifically focused. So I know at some point we actually had a internal study where we basically had the ingredient and basically had basically our full team smell it and do almost like a smell report. So that's where we got some of those descriptors like yeasty and bready. So that actually is based on a scientific study of the ingredient itself.
I would also add, knowing that smell and other organoleptic properties can impact taste and palatability, that we have done formal palatability assessments on both ingredients in dogs and in cats. And then, of course, also look at palatability throughout each of our clinical studies. And because we're delivering the ingredient as just the ingredient itself as a topper on top of kibble in all of these studies, feel very confident in the fact that it wouldn't have any impact in a formulation.
And then what is the incorporation rate?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can go ahead, Ravi.
Yeah, no, I can briefly answer. So it really depends on the particular product and form factor. We have like specific dosing guidelines and guidance that are established by the clinical studies we've run, that we can share as part of some of our materials on the ingredient. But ultimately, the incorporation rate would then really depend on the particular product and intended use of that product itself from a recommendation standpoint.
But it's quite small.
Thank you very much. We are coming up to the top of the hour.
I did see one question that I think would be good for us to address
Sure.
about whether it's a modified yeast fermentation product. No, these are bacteria microbes that we ferment to produce the postbiotics. So they are distinctly different from a yeast-based postbiotic.
So we are coming up to the end of the hour, and we do have quite a few unanswered questions left, but we will make sure to send those to our presenters, and they can reach out to you all personally with answers to your questions. We're sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but we had some fabulous questions today. So we are going to wrap it up, and on behalf of NASC, I would like to thank our attendees for taking time out of your day to join us, and to our speakers for sharing their expertise. Also, thanks to Bill Parker for moderating our Q&A. And this is just a reminder that today's webinar will be archived on the NASC website at nasc.cc/webinars. And we ask that you please share this presentation with anyone inside or outside your organization that you think could benefit from this knowledge. And again, thank you to our presenters and for everyone who joined us today. We appreciate you very much.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Bill. Thanks all.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.